Hey kiddies! So I'm making this video today for Eating Disorder Awareness Week, just to spread some awareness and also let other people that you're not alone, and also just tell my story of what I suffered from. I find talking about my eating disorders very hard because I always felt, even now, that it wasn't bad enough, which isn't true because it got pretty bad at times, but also everything starts somewhere. Depression starts small and then gets bigger. Anxiety starts small, gets bigger. Not all the time, but majority of the time, eating disorders start small and get a lot worse, and you need to pinpoint it at that smaller point. And it's still a problem even if you're not in hospital, even if you're not at the extremes of the scales of what people have. Luckily, I never ended up in hospital and never caused myself severe damage. Getting on to my story of my eating disorder, it kind of all started when I was about 13, so this is a good 7 years ago because I'm old now. I was suffering from depression and anxiety really bad at this time, and I wasn't eating well because of that. My anxiety causes me to kind of not eat because it makes me feel sick, and at point was physically sick. Already at this point I was being sick pretty much every day before school due to my anxiety. It kind of started from a lot of different things. The main things was a lot of people at school were very obsessed with weight. Very obsessed, and I kind of at this point had no self-esteem. I hated myself. If someone asked, what do you like about yourself? I would have had nothing to say. So I got it in my head that I would make friends, that people would like me, that people would stop hating me if I became skinny. I was already skinny. I'm a naturally skinny person anyway, my whole family is. I'm quite tall and I'm very lucky with that. I won't say I'm not lucky, I am lucky with that. And at this point I was already obviously not eating well, so I was already skinny, but I got in my head that the only way I would ever be better and ever be good enough was to be nothing. In some ways I think I wanted to disappear. I was sick. I don't know how else to say that. I was ill in my head and I was thinking that the only way that people would like me is that. So around that time I became anorexic and bulimic. Now I felt like I never was bad enough. The time I believed I didn't have an eating disorder because I wasn't in hospital and I still ate a little bit. I lived with my family and it was very hard not to eat. I mean, if you don't eat for days, your energy levels are so low, and I hated myself for eating anything. A single calorie was bad for me. So what I did was either became bulimic, where if I ate, I sort of tried to get rid of it, and I tried not to eat at all. There was days where I would be like, I'm not eating all day and I'm gonna try. And obviously I went out shopping one time and nearly collapsed because I hadn't eaten. I had no energy in me. I was already ill from anxiety and depression, which drained you horrifically amounts. And I also wasn't eating, so therefore I struggled a lot. It hurt to kind of go upstairs. I remember going upstairs and being like, I'm out of breath. I don't know how I coped in PE. I don't think I coped that well at times. I tried to go to the extremes of over-exercising, but that never really worked. I'm not an exercising type of person, but I never luckily got bad. I knew people that had ended up in hospital because of it, and I'm glad I never got to that point. But it took a long time to recover because it does. That's the sad thing. It's not an instant thing. It's kind of in your head, so therefore it's hard to correct your own head at the end of the day. And I never really got better until I was 17 and started treating my anxiety, because I started eating better by that point. I had been working at that point, and I think working made me better because you need to be stronger at work. And about bad parts of stress in my past, I don't eat a lot. But by that point, I started to like myself. I started to gain weight. But at the point of 17, when I was 17, started definitely being fully recovered from it, was the fact that I could eat out in public. I could eat around my family without going into a panic. I could go out for meals, and that was one of the hardest things for me. I didn't eat in public for a long time. If I did, it was very hard for me. And once I started defeating my anxiety, that's when it helped. So sometimes eating disorders aren't always the main cause. Like when I had depression and anxiety, my therapist was like, which one drives the other one? And it's a good example of mental health issues. Sometimes they drive another one. My anxiety has always driven everything else, where some people, depression drives everything else, or your eating disorder can drive everything else. I will insert a photo or two here at some point, because this is how I looked when I was at my worst, but I don't have a lot of photos because I hate myself and I never went out. I didn't really have many friends at all. Yeah. And I just didn't take a lot of photos at those points of my life. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know what weight I got to. I shouldn't really say that in this sort of video, because weight shouldn't be a focus, yet to people with eating disorders it obviously is. I was never allowed scales because my mum still doesn't allow scales in our house, because she knows I would get obsessive with it. Not so much now, but I think that was the good thing. My family were always good. It freaked out my sister and my dad a lot, and my mum was really good. She just kind of said, give me my own time and I will kind of come around to it. She didn't sweep it under the rug or anything, but she helped a lot by people not getting angry at me. She gave me small dinners and not anything too big that would be daunting. She let me pick at what I wanted to, but tried to make me eat at least something. So I think my mum did really well at that point. I always think eating disorders, out of all the mental illnesses, are the hardest for families, because anxiety, depression and everything like that, you want to get better. The person themselves doesn't want that. Where with eating disorders, you either put yourself in denial and don't think you have it, or your brain is screaming at you, no, you don't want to get rid of it. It's hard to change the way your brain thinks. I'm making this video because to show awareness of it, and also to show that there is a recovery point of it. I am fully recovered now, and everything is okay with me. I can eat. I'm still a picky eater, but I always will be. And I just want to spread the awareness of also, you don't have to be at the extremes to still have that problem. Because even at times now, I don't think I'm like, oh well, I didn't really have one. I did. My therapist and my doctors have said that, but I still believe, because people make it like, well, you don't have it unless a doctor has said it, or you don't have it unless you've ended up in hospital. And that's a horrible thing, because you're going to end up in hospital if you keep being in denial. And that's why you need to nip it in the bud when it's still that small little thing. And that's why I wanted to spread this video out, because if you keep kind of sweeping under the rug going, oh, it's not that bad, with yourself or anyone else you know with a problem, it will get worse. And that's when it's harder to come back from. The first sort of step of getting better is to see you have a problem. And that's the problem with eating disorders, is a lot of the times you don't think you have it, or you're kind of in denial, or you don't think you're bad enough. But if you start to recognise you have a problem, that's when you can focus, I need to get better. It's my brain that's unhealthy here, and it's not safe and it's not healthy to be in that mindset. Because if you want to help someone with a problem and they don't recognise that they have it, or if you believe you don't have it, that's when the patient or person with the problem isn't going to try and help themselves, and you need to try and help yourself. So if you just try, and if you're from an outsider's point of view, try to get them treatment. If they're bad enough, you can get them treatment. And I put my heart out to you, because I generally don't know what I'd do if I knew someone like that, because it's hard. I never had any good experiences of getting treatment until I was actually 17, and my mum paid, because the NHS wouldn't help you if you're under the age of 18, and I know that's changing now. So what I want to say is, at least try and get yourself help. Go to your GP, go to a counsellor, try and get yourself help, because at least you're trying, and it's going to help in the end, and you will get there. And every day the NHS and welfare systems around the world are getting better. So this is a few years ago, and hopefully it's already better now. I have more information on another video I did that I will link down below about the NHS and how my experience was with it. But just try and get yourself help, because doing it on your own, it's like quitting smoking. If you just kind of go cold turkey, it's going to be a lot harder. But if you have people behind you and people to help, even getting your friend or your family member to try and help you is an amazing thing. There's a lot of help online, and there's other YouTubers that will be doing videos up on Eating Disorder Awareness Week, and just trying to get help there, maybe talking to other people that have the similar issues that want to be in recovery. Try and avoid pro-ana websites at all cost. Luckily, I never got roped into any of that really. I just kind of stimulated it over in my own head. But please avoid those, and please don't make them for other people to see, because I think people don't realise how much damage they are doing to other people. If your friend had an eating disorder, you'd feel a lot more different than yourself having one, because you sometimes, like me in the past, you care. Even now, I care more about my family and friends more than I care about myself. I think that's just a natural human instinct. I hope that helped you, and I hope that you learned something from this video. Please do your part in Eating Disorder Week, either by sharing this video or kind of putting something out there about it, and just helping others with this horrible, horrible issue. I wouldn't wish it on anyone, and I wouldn't wish it on any family members. So that's why we need to kind of get more help out there to help others with it. Please like, comment and subscribe, because that would really make my day. And yeah, I've got all my links down below. And yeah, I will see you next time, guys. Love you. Have a good week.